siúigi tína steach gan gríach díadh musta nach go pandemic, agus na chuirigíon scipa eichgin. Ha art coach na Scottish Thistles Tamsin Greenway in is còidse dheirth a siúi táiseach anasach sa dríach coachí eichge.
Yeah, I think it's a strange one now when I look back. It feels probably quite normal now because we just got on with it, but it was weird just the things like meeting the squad over Zoom. You know, I took on the job and 2 weeks later we're in lockdown. So there was a good 6 to 8 months where I just didn't get my hands on the players. We couldn't reselect the squad. And there was a lot of unknowns. You know, although I knew the bulk of the main Scottish players, I didn't know a load of the ones sitting underneath. So it's been quite an interesting couple of years in the job. Probably not how I wanted it to plan, but it also gave us an opportunity to strip everything back as well, which I think you rarely have in any kind of walk of life or business. So yeah, we look at the positives now, but it was definitely a strange time.
Inis go bhfuil cumasach na beach an chótí eiche seachad, a Tamsin gamas iad scipa seo fuachta go dheirth, gus bí a chud is scipaí náisiúnta eile a hanas artas na ranganan.
You have to remember performance is long term. You know, world netball is a constantly evolving piece. You've seen in the past 10 years, it's gone from 2 dominating nations to 5 nations now that are up in the mix. And the plan is to get the rest of that group behind that next 5 to up their ante. And just as we're moving forward, you know, Wales are pushing on and the African nations are pushing on, the Caribbean are as well. So it's kind of a constant moving piece. We want to be able to get to the best position we can get in world netball. And eventually we want to be able to challenge those top teams as well as beat consistently the teams around us. But that does take time. That's a whole shift of training, of moving into new eras that we've never touched on before, full-time programs and the youngsters understanding what it's like to play at that level and intensity. So there's a lot of moving pieces as we go along, but of course the ultimate aim is to take this group as far as it can go and then continue to push Scotland netball on.
Bhuinnig an scipa na cíad Geamaichean farpaisach achcha in Barbados I dharsa dúlach an nudí. Be sin na cíad turas a Tamsin iad an scipa eichgin beá bo áth na parca.
I love that. It was really nice to actually play against somebody other than ourselves. And have friendlies. You know, we played against Wales and Northern Ireland in the summer, but to actually get a test match, to get on home soil, to play at the Emirates, to have fans in the building, to put on the Thistles dress, to learn the anthem, all the bits that you love about the sport, all the important bits, all the special bits, to get first caps out there. It was pretty impressive. And then of course we got 2 great results under our belt as well. So yeah, very pleased with how the first test match went, because you never know, do you, with your first one, and it's kind of nice to set the tone of where we want to go. Players stepped up. It was the first time for me and Sarah Francis-Bateman to actually implement some tactical elements on them and to see what they could tolerate, to see what they could take on board, to see how they adapted out on court as well. So, I mean, we were thrilled. The danger of always getting a big result on the first game is that you can't back it up. Well, they certainly backed it up, and they put a message down that, you know, this Scotland team wants to go places.
Han scipa coachí agus na clicidir an ullach gin fiúr the Geamaichean Cho in Birmingham. An nuair sin táise hiad a gulach agus on na Geamaichean Jerviachar son cúpa na crunne, and na dábhíle sa 3 Harry hit.
There's the excitement of major tournament, of going with Thistles. There's excitement for me as a coach, my first international big competition. You know, I've done it as a player for England. I've never done it as a coach. So there's all those elements to take on board as well. And it's a different kind of prospect to play sort of 7 games across 8 days, to play completely different styles, to know that there's some tough matches in there with Australia and Jamaica and South Africa, and know there's also some target teams as well. It's a totally different take for me, but I think what's going to be important when we build up in the camps is that we get the whole buy-in from the squad. You know, what is our overall goal there? What are we trying to prove? What are we aiming to do? And I think that's what I'm more excited about, the build-up, because you know, we're going to have 12 incredible athletes, some experience, some inexperience, and but 12 players that are desperate to go and show what the Thistle style is all about. Off the back of Commonwealth Games, they'll get a bit of downtime, and then it's straight into build up. We'll hit the World Cup qualifiers in October, and gone are the days where it's just sort of Northern Ireland and Wales and Scotland. We've got a few other teams in there, so there'll be a huge amount of games again across a week's play. So there's a lot to do, a lot to fit in. and it's pressure time, isn't it? They've got to come out on top. They've got to be in the top 2 to go to the World Cup the following year in South Africa. So yeah, there'll be no rest for the wicked straight off the back of commies, and then it will be a rejig to see how we performed and see what we can do to make sure we get on top of the home nations come October.
Ha fysig Tamsin gyfel ober half the gi a han skipper sonnegal suas rangen in teul. A ha cúsin a coid mach an skipper nashanta sonne blintchen die heen. Lebrut in a dolle nache gus ruttigen. Sorry to a chollenach.
I am ever the fairy tale when it comes to sport. You know, that's the beauty, right? You go into it because you want to win things and you want to perform. But I'm a realist in where we are at the moment. We are 9th in the world. We have a lot to prove to consolidate at this level. But I'm under no illusions that this group can do that. I just think they've shown huge potential so far. They are upping the ante in everything we're asking for them. And what's really pleasing for me is we're only just scratching the surface. When I talk about this moving piece, it's about, can we start putting in full-time programs? You know, when I took over this role, some of these players weren't even playing club, weren't playing uni, aren't in Super League, are training twice a week. You know, the very fact that we're starting to talk about, well, you know, how many more sessions can we get into this group? How can we start to shift them towards being semi-pro athletes? What is that going to look like? That's got to happen before we can make major impacts, but we've definitely got the makings of a really special group that will build something not only for themselves, but more importantly for the future generations coming through.